I can't remember, but it starts with a C. Control. Oh, coastal something.
No, one coastal is Bayside.
Oh, Bayside. They gave me, that was the one that. I'm just gonna say we got the big, because we don't have any.
And before the end of the day, oh, I have to.
Okay, then
The
what
problem
was,
with them is I don't, they'll be as.
When you're ready. Test 1, 2, 3. 3, 2, 1. Is it working? It is. Okay. Oh. saying I didn't. Would not be offensive.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Hello? Hello?
Testing, testing, testing.
We have a new neighbor now. I don't know.
When you move it, I can hear noise. Hello, hello, hello. Testing, testing. Everybody hear me?
Sounds pretty good over
Hello?
here. Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello, hello. Can everybody hear me?
I can.
Hey, Early, you said?
I can
Okay.
hear you, Katie.
Is this a little better?
That's good.
Hey.
That's good.
Hello?
Wouldn't want me to do that.
All right. Well, it is 6 o'clock, so we're going to bring this meeting to order. I guess I get closer. Okay. Anyhow, I'm going to try and get closer to. Well, it's 6 o'clock, so we'll bring the meeting to order. This is for Bal Harbour Association, Inc., August 5th, regular board meeting. I have a question or a few requests to make of those people who are here tonight. First, if you get up to speak, please use the microphone, which I'm not doing a very good job of, but introduce yourself and tell us where you live. Also, let's see. Last meeting, I wasn't here, but it was reported there was a lot of audience participation as far as excitement or comments. If we have that, I'm just asking that please be respectful of all the people who are talking and, keep it under control. We don't need any yelling or clapping or booing. So just to try and keep it under control. Other than that, we will move on to the approval of the minutes. And we have 3 sets of minutes that were on the agenda. The first set is July 1st of 2024. That was our regular board meeting. Does anyone have any comments about the agenda, those minutes, or a motion to accept them? Okay. Okay. July 1st. Okay, we have a motion to accept them or approve them. It's been seconded by Twain. If there's no comments or questions on that, we can take a vote. If comments, okay, we'll have a vote on the acceptance of those minutes. I think it's unanimous. We've got a acceptance on that. The next meeting was July 11th. This was a special board meeting. This was the one when the votes were counted. Unfortunately, I have not seen the minutes on that. I don't know if anybody else is. I know they were taped, but I have not seen a written transcription of those. Does anybody have that? No? Okay, I think we're going to have to just pass on that and talk to Joy when she gets back and bring the records up to date. So we'll table that one. The next one is the July 22nd special board meeting. On that one, I have contacted Joy about it just so that y'all are aware of it. On the minutes for that meeting, there was an error that had to be corrected in who was listed as a director in attendance that she did correct. The other thing I asked for is a little more explanation because it did not indicate any of the subjects that were discussed that night. I don't know if she's had a chance to address that or not because of the schedule of what's going on. I think it needs to have that done before we approve those minutes. Any other comments from anyone? Okay, is there a second? Okay, there's a motion to table those minutes also and a second. Can we have a vote on that, please? And that carries unanimously. We're into general comments, and I've made a lot of notes because we've had a lot going on, and I hope you'll bear with me on some of these that they don't get too much of an issue. The first one is an unfortunate announcement. We have to announce the resignation of Rolf Fried, and this resignation came in within the last week or so. I don't have the date exactly, and he resigned for personal reasons. So we have that vacancy that we'll be addressing later today. The second one I have on my list is Jim DeForest. I thought he said he was going to be here tonight. A question has come up regarding his eligibility, and I want to qualify that it's eligibility, not qualifications, because he's very well qualified, but he is not on the deed as a owner of record. That has been turned up by someone. I don't know where it originated to start with, but apparently it came up on Facebook. So it has been brought to Jim's attention, and it either has to be corrected through a deed, or we have to make a change to the bylaws, or he has to resign. So that's kind of where we are. And if anybody has any more comments on that one from the board that you've talked to him. The next thing is I guess this is more personal from me as far as my comments. There were several items that I requested to have on the agenda tonight. However, the board didn't feel in general that there was a consensus that they should be on the agenda, but I'm still going to bring them up. They can either be discussed, or we can table it, or it can be added to an agenda at a future time. The first one was I wanted to request that we discuss the special assessment. And the reason for discussing the special assessment is that if we have a contract with Payne Brothers and it doesn't come due, or work doesn't start until March or April of next year, I know that I've heard concerns from a number of homeowners about why are you collecting the money now? That is a question that came up, asked of me, and I didn't have an answer. It has to be the whole board that discusses that. It can be discussed tonight. We can't make any changes tonight because it's not on the agenda, but if the board is in a position would like to talk about it, it's open to discuss that. Yep. Yeah, yeah. I guess, well, I think the question is that I've been asked is if we're not going to need the money until the 1st of next year, can we either extend payments from 3 months to 6 months, or can we delay the deposit date? All of this does bring up a lot of issues with people who have paid already, which there are some that have. And, but there are the people who are asking are mostly the ones who have said that they have issues with what they can afford to pay. And if we had a way of extending it, this may help them out. So that's the reason for bringing it up, to see if anybody has any further ideas on making some changes to that. Oh, excuse me, just a minute. You have to, Dave, if you'll use the microphone and identify yourself first,
Dave
please.
Marks, I live on Sandy Cove. Do the CNRs stipulate that the special assessment has to be spent in the same calendar year that it's assessed?
Not in the same calendar year. It refers to a 12-month period.
Oh, okay. Any 12-month period.
Well, a 12-month period, and there is a question of whether it's 12 months from the date it was approved or the 12 months from the date that we start collecting. But it is a 12-month calendar, or not calendar year, but a 12-month period of time.
And is that the work has to be completed or commenced, start on it? Because that could be an issue if,
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that
No,
in.
it is definitely an issue. So, I mean, the documents in Wayne, you want to comment on that?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Oh,
Yes, and I've had several conversations with a number of people. There are a lot of questions around what the legalities are. And this is one of those topics that I think we need more directed guidance from our legal counsel so we can answer that. I have no problem whatsoever with, and I'm one of those people that's already paid it. And I have no problem whatsoever with my money being in the HOA until we're ready to spend on the contract, but other people may. So I'll do whatever the board thinks is best for the community, and particularly for those people who do not have the funds to be able to pay it in one point in time. I'm certainly want to be careful about how I say this. I certainly agree with trying to do whatever we can to make it affordable for everybody. I have no problem with that. The only question is, what are we required to do legally? And I don't have the answer to that. I think that's one of those questions we need to bring to our legal counsel and get a definitive determination of what we can and can't do. That's my only comment on it.
So I agree with you. We should go back to the attorney and discuss it with the attorney one more time. But we have an email statement from the attorney in that list of emails Joyce sent us at the beginning of our term. And in the middle of all that stuff, there's an email from the attorney that says the 12-month period is not a firm 12-month date. So we need to go back and read what he said, go back and talk to him, be sure that is correct. But he, yeah, yeah, I'll try. So the attorney in an email said that the 12-month period is not a firm 12-month period, that have flexibility there. So if we can go back and talk to the attorney, be sure we understand what he was really saying and it's appropriate for this circumstance would be a good thing to do.
As of last week, maybe about Wednesday, I had talked to Joy, and she'd already collected over $200,000 on that. I've paid, my son's paid. My new neighbors who just moved into the area and voted yes to the assessment and paid it even before August 1st. That consideration, the people that are doing what was asked of them to do, needs to be taken into consideration. I also have no problem that money sitting with the HOA, because I agreed when I voted for it to pay in 3 months or one payment. That's my vote, was my agreement to do that. And that's my viewpoint on that.
I've paid also. I was just wondering, with that money, can we put it in a short CD and use that money to get extra feet on the bulkhead?
If we collect the money, it can definitely be put into some kind of a CD, and somewhere, I'm going to guess with interest rates are getting a little less aggressive, but I mean, probably somewhere over 4% for a short period of time. It would increase, if we had all of it in that CD, it could generate quite a bit more money, which would help us not only for additional feet, but also for any extra things that could come up as far as any additional items unforeseen in the contract that are changes. So that is an option. It was just, and like I said, it's not on the agenda tonight, so we cannot make a determination tonight as far as making any change. But it was something to bring up so that everybody can be thinking about it. And
Consult the attorney.
when last time I spoke to the attorney, because when I talked to him about whether or not we should handle the election when we did, as far as, because it was so close to the hurricane, collection of fees and not being able to use it right away did come up. It was either that or right after that we were talking, and he said his feeling was that we could make a decision by the board as long as it was done in a board meeting and all the board concurred on what we wanted to change on that. He was hesitant to change the due date by much because he said, it's like nobody wants to negate a special assessment that has been approved. So so that was the one thing he said. Like I said, it was the reason for bringing it up is that there were a number of people who emailed me and have asked me, could we extend this for 6 months or something, make it a little easier on those who have a problem with payment. So that's the issue. If we are of agreement, we could bring it up and put it on the next meeting's agenda to make if there's any decision to be made, or just finalize that it will not change. So, yes, Carrie, could you use the microphone and introduce the microphone there? Introduce yourself, please.
Carrie Humphrey, 2703 Lighthouse. Since we had the special assessment and it's been documented in the minutes and with the letters, I personally do not feel that we should extend it. I think we need to stay on track.
Thank you. Anybody else? Wait a minute, Gary, if you just pass that back.
Good evening, April Schneider, 18224 Lakeside Lane. My question to you is, I don't know if you can answer it at this time, but how many people have turned in the letter due August 1st to Joy saying that they wanted to participate in the 3-month payment plan?
I honestly don't know the answer to that question. Do you? I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Please,
I would just like to say one thing. I paid, but I have no problem with that. But I think if there's any way to make it easier for other people to pay, and we can do that legally, I don't have a problem with that.
Hi, Annie Atwood. I'm on 18218 Lakeside Lane. Mine is a two-part question. If it could be spread out over a 6-month period, that would make it considerably easier for some of us to pay the assessment. I voted for the assessment, and but I did not realize at the vote that I was voting to pay it in a 3-month increment. In fact, I think I was told by somebody on the board that we could work out a payment plan that would be, easier, that it wasn't intended to be a hardship and that sort of thing. And then my question is, if another future assessment is voted and approved, say it's like, I don't know, instead of $4,000, it was closer to $8,000 or $10,000, would that late fee also be applied to that, a 10% late fee on everything moving forward? Because my understanding, I think there's been some confusion as to whether or not that's like that 10% late fee applies to monthly late fees, monthly association fees, or special assessments, because it wasn't clear in the minutes that were released that that was also applicable to special assessments, which are significantly bigger chunks of money than a monthly assessment.
Let me address your question first on the fees and penalties as far as collection goes. The documents do address, it was not put in the letter. I don't know that any of us expected to have that go in the letter that went out, other than trying to set up a payment process. But the documents do require in our CCNRs that an assessment, special assessment, is the same as monthly maintenance. So whatever the applicable penalties are, if you do not pay a monthly assessment or a special assessment timely, that percentage of a late fee is due. If it goes past the 90 days, it can go into a collection thing where it's turned over to attorneys. Nobody's looking to have that happen, but that is what's in the documents, and it is stated in there. I don't think anybody anticipated, as far as the 3 months, nobody anticipated when that was decided that this was going to drag on until next year as far as the actual work starting. That's the only reason that this has been triggered. So, and as far as anything in the future, if there was ever a larger assessment or something in the future, the board at that time has the option to make whatever kind of payment arrangements that they feel viable for that particular project. So that's an on assessment decision. Anybody else?
I guess what we could do is, we've talked about this before, but I'm willing to discuss letting people who need to extend to 6 months replace their 3-month agreement with a 6-month agreement. then if the group decides not to do that, that's fine. I'll agree with the group, but I think we ought to at least discuss it. So
So,
That's what we're here to
can
do
you
tonight.
hear?
We
I'm
can't
sorry.
vote on it tonight,
Hello?
but we can discuss it further.
Hello?
Oh, Mark?
Yeah, this is Mark. I'm sorry. I just, who stated that last comment? I didn't catch who that was.
sorry, Mark, that was me, Fred. You know,
Hey, Fred.
I'm
I,
laryngitis,
I,
sort of, so
I,
that's why you don't recognize me.
I know your voice, it changes, over audio for sure. I agree 100% with you. I think we need to find a way, if we can, to try to be flexible as we can. And that's just something we need to do when we go back after the meeting and explore with, our with our attorney, what options we've got to extend, if we can, those payment terms, because we know already clearly that we've got a longer horizon than we originally anticipated. So we need to take that into account. And as Barbara said, we didn't contemplate that early on when we originally put these motions in place. Things have changed and we're trying to be flexible as we can. So I say, let's try to explore it, and then we'll get back to the community on what we find out.
Okay, well, yeah.
It's Katie Gibson, 18607 Sandy Cove. I know it's the 5th right now, and the first at least payment tranche is due by the 20th in order to not get the late fees. So appreciate that y'all are going to go back and discuss this. Would you recommend that folks go ahead and make that first payment on the 20th of the 3rd in order to find out what the determination is on extending the latter 2/3 of it? Or how should homeowners handle that situation?
Is there anyone who want to comment?
Okay, all we can do is comment. I personally think we should follow through with the contract that we have with the homeowners, that the system that we have set up. People sit around waiting and hoping that they may not have to pay. That's fine. But on that date, yes, you should pay. That would be my comment, but of course we can't vote on it. Another thing is that some people may not know about is that there's a fairly good deal of blowback on the contract that we already approved. And if that comes up and they decide, somehow or other things change, because they can, I guess, then we don't collect that money now. Or if Payne Brothers are available earlier or anything like that, we won't have the money.
Yes, go ahead, Dave.
So this is David Randall, 2712 Lighthouse. I am all for allowing people who claim a hardship to push it out farther, but I don't want it to be arbitrary for others who would just want to choose that. So I think they should stick with the, one single payment, or three months, I guess, is kind of arbitrary. Anybody can take advantage of that, but I think I don't want it to be arbitrarily extended for 6 months just because people want that. I mean, I think they should claim a hardship or something in order to get an exception to what we've agreed to.
Thank you, Dave. The only thing I will answer to that is that the state law doesn't allow us to discriminate between what we allow one person versus another. They don't have any consideration for hardship. So the board is restricted to whatever they do. It is for everybody. So that's something that they'll have to consider. So I would say at this point, we will have it on the agenda for the next meeting, so that if there is anything has to be decided, or at least reaffirmed, that we're continuing on with the way it is, that will be on the agenda so that that vote will be recorded. Moving on from there, something I have suggested, which does not take a lot of discussion from anybody, but I feel because our board has gotten into a number of issues that we don't seem to be able to reconcile with our CNRs and other documents, it would behoove us to have a short 2 or 3 hour seminar presented to us by a legal, a lawyer who can train us on the things that we need to know about and how we should deal with them. I believe I've been on here a year. I think there's only 3 of us or 4 of us that have. It would have been very helpful to me in the very beginning if I had been known more about the laws that we had to abide by. I think it would be helpful for the current board to do that. It's just something I want them to think about. Does anyone want to make a statement about that? Okay. Fred? No. Okay. The last thing that I had requested on the agenda, which did have some concerns, was that I did talk to Mr. Treese, which is Mike Treese from the law firm, who is our counsel, regarding an issue that came up at the last meeting. It was just indicated that instructions were given to our contractor, which not all of the board was aware of and had not come before the board to be voted on. He sent us an email that was distributed because I asked him to copy us so that I was not rewriting his words. But the bottom line is that we can request any board member to take on a project, to be the lead contact and coordinate things. But as a board, we have to make decisions as a board. If there is a contract, we have to adhere to it. If we want to change it, it has to come back to the board. Anything that we do has to be a board open vote in front of the homeowners. That was just his, he had told me that that should be something that everybody was aware of. I'm just bringing that out for that. I think. Well, he sent it to Joy and she was supposed to distribute it to everybody. As far as, and if you haven't gotten it, I know I got it and I would be happy to forward it to you. It was at least a week or 2 ago. It wasn't just in the past day or so. Yeah. In fact, I would say it goes back to somewhere around the 25th or 6th of July.
Somewhere in the
Unfortunately, yes. The other thing, well, that brings up one of the things that was going to be my last point, but I'm going to skip to it because the board has gotten used to conversing a lot by email, asking questions or answering questions, and discussing things in email because first of all, you have to have an open meeting to discuss items. The email strings have gotten unwieldy and there's too many of them. I mean, it's not just one, it's multiples and there's too many. I'm just going to ask the board that we all make a commitment to stop and, talk to each other, wait and talk to each other at a board meeting, but not continue. I mean, there are times when you have to make a vote, which Joy should do. She should put it out and our response should go back to Joy so that it can be accounted for accurately. But answering questions where you agree with somebody, but you may not know what the question was that you're agreeing to. I mean, it can happen and there's just too many of them. So I'm just asking the board that they please, if they would make a commitment to, if not totally stop, at least decrease them to where it's a manageable consideration. And lastly, this is controversial, I know, because of what Matt said. With the loss of Rolf, he was the point person for the contract and the bids and Payne Brothers. I don't know who's going to step in other than Rick as far as he's our manager, but I mean from the board as far as taking that over. But because of the issues that keep getting raised at most of our board meetings, I feel strongly that we should employ an outside consulting engineering firm, and that firm should help us develop a comprehensive plan, including the condition of all the bulkheads, not just what we're working on, the replacement of the sections, timing of it, and assisting us with RFPs and bid reviews and contract negotiations. We are dealing with your money. And at this point, this particular assessment is $853,000. I don't think that any one of us should be trying to be the expert to handle it all. And hiring someone to take that who is independent of being here within the property, I think is warranted. We hire lawyers, although we have lawyers who live here. We hire accountants, even though we have accountants who live here. We have a lot of engineers who live here, but I don't see why we're not hiring an engineer also to do the advisory work. So that's my last request for the board. If they would approve putting on the agenda to talk about at our next meeting, I request that, and I would like to know if you would approve.
So I agree in principle, and I'm thinking we have 3,000 more feet of bulkhead in the next 8 to 10 years that need to be monitored, repaired, and replaced. And if you're able to find an engineer that can help monitor that, that's wonderful. I would suggest we start with the firm that the city of Nassau Bay uses, contact them, see what their pricing is. I had suggested to Ralph that we do something like this when I first started volunteering with him before I was elected. So in principle, I'm okay with doing it, but I don't think we're going to have time to do it. We can try, but I don't think we're going to have time to do it in the next year. So we can certainly give it a try. I'm certainly willing to try that, and it would be beneficial in the long run, perhaps. So when I've talked with Raouf about doing this, he doesn't think in our climate here with the large industry we have that we're going to be able to find a professional that would be willing to put their reputation on the line for our small community. But we'll see. We'll talk to them. We'll find out. Okay. Any other comments?
At the last meeting, considering the emotional nature of the meeting, I kind of came to the same conclusion that Fred's espousing at this point, which is it's probably a good idea. The downside is I am an engineer. I'm not a civil engineer. I'm not a professional engineer, but I've worked with a number of them. It's not a cheap alternative, particularly a professional engineer who's going to put his license on the line for his calculations and his recommendations. So we have to understand that if we go down this road, it's not going to be cheap. So what I would ask, and since this is just comment period, this is nothing we're voting on, what I would ask is that we communicate, and that's a good idea, talking to the engineers that the city of Nassau Bay uses, find out what they would charge us to do that. I think it will open up some eyes. I could be wrong. They might do it pretty cheap, but I've never seen that happen with any professional engineer I've ever met. So just a comment. Oh, sorry. You should have hit me inside later.
I'll do it now. Okay. My comment I would agree with that. I don't even know how much they would charge, but since the last time we tried to raise the monthly maintenance fees, not dues, but maintenance fees, everybody was saying how we were wasting money, we were spending too much and everything like that. I think the board took that to heart, and that was one of the reasons that we felt that it could be handled in-house. That's one thing. And then the other thing is you're seeking out an expert. Someone has to choose if they are an expert enough or more expert than them or more expert than the next guy down the road. That would not be me because I don't know anything about it. We need people that know about engineering to choose experts. That's a bit of a problem to me, but if you can, if you can surmount that, that's fine.
What? Carrie, did you want to get up and say something? No. Katie, I'm sorry.
It's Katie Gibson again on 18607 Sandy Cove. Just appreciate y'all considering that. I know that the fees could potentially be very large, but I think a lot of folks would appreciate at least understanding what the volume of those fees are in comparison to what we're spending. We're talking about $800,000 now for one tranche. We have 2 more to go. This is 1/3 of our total investment that the homeowners are going to have to make. So if we're talking over $1 million, then is it 10,000? Is it 50,000? Is it 100,000? Understanding what those fees are in relation to that. The other thing, we do hear a lot of chatter that a lot of homeowners are saying this is something they'd be interested in. So it might be worthwhile looking into some sort of surveying tool to understand who in the community would be interested in looking something like this, like a survey monkey that we could send out, just to make sure that we're all acting in the best interest of what the community wants.
Thank you, Katie. Is there anyone else? What I will tell you that I had in mind is one of the homeowners several meetings back suggested that they, at the association that he was a member of, and they needed to hire a consultant to do something, they created an RFP and had 3 consultants come in, do a presentation to the board and the owners at that time of what they could do and what it would cost. I think that would be the best plan for us. I know that there are a number of companies out there that do this kind of thing, and depending on the scope of the work, from the, just bare bones all the way through, final completion of a job and monitoring it, the range of costs can be, quite a lot. But I think we should try and put that together. And if it seems to be agreeable with the board, we'll have that on the agenda to talk about at our next meeting. Was there any other comments? Okay, yes, sir. I'm sorry, please come up and use the mic.
Jack Thomas, Starboard Drive. It's my understanding that we took bids and selected this contractor, and our special assessment is for a specific purpose for that contract. And so we voted that. Are we now not awarding this contract?
That bid has been accepted. As far as I know, we have not issued a contract yet to that contractor.
So if you do not issue a contract, what do you do then? You refund the special assessment?
I don't think there's any indication that anybody is trying to do that. But I honestly don't know what the status of the contract is at the moment. I haven't seen one, and I haven't been involved with the negotiations for contract.
Well, the bylaws say you can have a special assessment, but it has to be applied for something specific. And
That's correct.
So you took bids, agreed on the bids, then put the special assessment, and then we voted on it and approved it. And now you're talking about changing it?
But I will tell you my fear, sir, and this was planted in my head over a year ago by someone else who's in this room, and they said it was not the matter of collecting or getting a special assessment approved and collecting the money. It was executing the contract to be able to get it done properly in timely fashion. That's my concern. I'm just looking for a consultant who can help us get it done.
Well, if you're not going to award that contract, then you need to reimburse everybody that's put money up for this.
I didn't say we're not going to award the contract. It hasn't been negotiated at this point. It's still pending.
Well,
The bid was accepted.
I'm confused. I thought we were going to award this contract, but you're saying we're not going to award this contract. I guess you're saying we're going to look at other people, or we're going to hire somebody else, or we're going to hire a specialist to tell us if we need this contract.
My proposal is to hire somebody who can tell us whether or not the sections of the bulkhead that we're trying to do first are appropriate and what we should do next in the second and third round, and to help us negotiate the contract with the terms that need to be in it for a contract with that amount of money. I'm not saying not to sign it. We approved the bid, but a bid has to be supported by the contract, which is not currently in place.
So, so it's temporary, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm not going to use that word, sir. No. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. My name is Lewis, and I live on Star Board. I've got a two-part question. Both will be short. Is the current work being done now unsatisfactory to the board? Because I've gone by there almost every day, and not just Saturday and Sunday, and they're not working. So I want to ask the board members, are they satisfied with the work that's going on correctly with the work, that bulk site right now? And I got a part two.
Does anyone have an answer?
So I'm certainly not an expert at doing bulkhead repair, but I've been very impressed with the quality of the contractor. It is kind of a chaotic process. It is a little scary. Julie's nodding. Yes, it is scary. Okay, so it is scary. It's a chaotic process. And I don't have any personal experience with anybody else, so I can't really judge them in terms of how they perform to other contractors. So I'm not in a position to judge that because I don't have that experience. Raouf was the one that had the experience. We do have several other people who have extensive construction experience. So Mark is not with us tonight, but he's on the line. He does. He has extensive construction experience of large projects in his background. So there are quite a few people that maybe are unhappy with the way Payne Brothers are doing the work. But they have one of the best reputations on this lake. They are a small business. They are three brothers that do the hard part of the work, and they hire laborers to do the rest of the work. But like I said, I can't assess how good they are compared to the other contractors because I've never watched the other contractors. But they have the contract to do the emergency repair, and they are the favorite bidder to do the assessment repair. Now, without Raouf, that's thrown a wrench into the plans here to try to get everything coordinated. And in my opinion, it's putting the association and the community and our homes at additional risk because we don't have him to help guide the situation. And I don't know what to say about that at this point. I hope to find out, but I don't know what to say tonight about how that happened and why it happened. But I do want to find out. Does that partially answer your question?
Somewhat, sir. I keep it real simple in mind. If you had hired this company to do a remodeling in your townhouse, and either he's behind schedule or over budget, those are two simple things. You have to be an expert. I'm just asking, is he doing both? Is he on budget and on schedule? And my second part, that way I won't take up any more time, is if this is the same company, small company, we're going to do the special assessment. Again, my example would be you're remodeling your whole home. Would you pay that money up front to the same contractor to remodel your home if he's behind schedule and over budget? Not 50% down, all the money up front. I've never done that in my life, to pay everything up front because I've been not, won't use the word, at most 50% for material. So those are my only questions.
But yeah, if I could answer you just a little bit on that one. I've seen construction, I've been involved with personal construction, but never on bulkheads. The difficulty that I have with watching what's happening, and I do have a problem with it, is the time frame. Now, there are extenuating circumstances. We did have a hurricane come in, but as it's been mentioned by some other people, there have been a lot of gaps in when they're out there working. And this week is one that I expected to see them there this morning and did not. They were supposed to have been there last week and they were not. So I don't know what the reason for that is. In fact, it's going to come up probably under our manager's report just to see if he can advise us. The work I've been told from what they have got in place, the bulkheads that are in place look like they were built well. But there are some, still questions I don't have the answers to. So,
They were there last week. They were working there last week. Today, they're waiting for Phil to come in. When you have 2 weeks of rain, then the dirt yards are backed up. So they're just waiting for Phil to be brought back in.
Okay.
We did have the storm before the hurricane also.
Did you have something to say? Yeah, Julie?
No, just that why we're not looking at someone else for, like I say, collecting, all three to pay the special assessment. And I'm just kind of backing on the gentleman that I know from Starboard, who does that type of work, who pays all of your money, even though you sign a contract. Maybe we
Well,
sign the bar, says here, we agree with you, but we don't know for sure what the contract's gonna look like. Stipulations, the timeline, given that we're gonna be going into another springtime, possibly, or April, May. And then we have to get a little bit of clarity, which I know I think that whether it was the July 11th when everybody approved it, and you have to have it completed, which I think I hear you don't, but thereafter. I'm seeing this going all through 2025. Just for this special assessment.
There are questions regarding that have not been answered. That is, from my point of view, I'm still looking to have them answered. Hopefully we have, like I said, a consultant that can come in, evaluate where we are and help us work through that. We need a long-term plan, which we don't have. This is something I was going to bring up with Rick to ask him. One of the things that has been brought to my attention as far as the plan goes, we have a lot of bulkheads in the canals that have lifts, boat lifts or jet ski lifts that are going to have to be moved. The question of the boat lifts are owned by the owner of the property, generally in a close relation to it. Not always. There's some boat lifts that are on areas that are common property or closer to other people's property. But the boat lift is owned by a property owner. The slip is not, and the bulkhead is not. I don't know, and I don't know if anybody has come up with an answer to if a homeowner does not, or a slip owner does not move his slip or his lift, do we have the right to remove it? And then they have to figure out what they do with putting it back. We don't have any agreements with any of the owners that are in that area right now. I don't know if any of them have even been approached on an individual basis to work out, do they still want their lifts? Some people have lifts behind their house. They don't even care if they're there anymore because they don't use them. And some of them are in the condition that they probably can't use them. But those are questions from executing a contract and moving forward that we have to have answers to. And that still is an open item that needs to be addressed. To me, that's still part of that long-term plan. We've got to know what we're going to be facing. In fact, just see, one of the bids that we had, it's not the one that was accepted. The one that we accepted did not include any removal of any boat slips or jet ski lifts. That was going to be negotiated individually if it came up. One of our bids did include the removal of all jet ski and boat lifts and any pilings that were in the way. But it was not addressed if it just made their bid higher, whether that was our responsibility as an HOA or if it's a homeowner. So that's an open item. Yes, Katie.
There was a question that came up in the chat that if the contract had not been signed, do we still have to pay the assessment? And before you answer that, I want to add a Katie question onto the end of it, in that, as I understand, those are two distinct items. The homeowners signed an agreement to pay the assessment to have bulkhead damage repaired. Separately, the HOA signed a contract to have this. So I think anything related to the contract, if we were to negotiate, look at different folks, cancel, stay with what we have, does not negate the fact that the homeowners agreed to the assessment. Can y'all verify if that's correct?
I believe that's correct. Does anybody else? Okay, I think we have it.
There is no current contract.
Yeah,
signed
yeah.
to do the assessment work.
Yeah.
There was just a vote to accept the bids so we can move forward with negotiating.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
I'm sorry here. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Excuse me.
Do you want me to repeat all that? Sorry. Yes, I don't even remember everything I said. So there is no contract currently for the special assessment work. The board voted on, I think it was the 22nd, to accept the lowest bid and then to work on negotiating the contract with that bidder. So that's where it stands right now. So it's not like we're throwing a contract away. We voted to accept that bid because they were the lowest bid and they were the bid that the special assessment was built around. So if we change all that and the cost change, then either the amount of work changes or the amount of the special assessment changes. And I don't think we can do either one of those. So that's one of the issues. And what was the other question? I can't remember what I started with when I said that.
The question was, the question in the chat was, do homeowners still have to pay the assessment without a contract being in place?
Oh, I mean, I'm gonna second what Barbara said. The special assessment was, we voted on that to collect the money so that we could do this work. It's based on the contract, and then we accepted the bid that the special assessment was based on, and now the process is negotiating the terms of the contract to get the work done. So I don't know if that answers the question. I don't know if that's what I started with when I started talking, but.
It's my understanding we couldn't even talk to anybody really until we knew we had the money.
Valid point, yeah. One of the other things that kind of caught us, I guess, is it's probably not the right word to use. I'll retract that word. One of the problems with the execution of the emergency repair work was that we couldn't get the permits until we had a signed contract. Then when we went for the permits, then the permitting agencies didn't allow us to do some of the things we wanted to do, which changed the scope of that job. So that's kind of where we're at on that. It happens because you're dealing with the government. Sorry.
This is, oh, sorry. I'm going to read off the screen because there's a question in the chat. This is from Anne. Last meeting, there were multiple issues presented with the contractor, like not using proper materials for backfill and issues which caused damage to a home, which Raouf said he directed that the HOA would pay for. Have those issues been addressed? And if so, what's the resolution?
So I was in the last meeting. I do not recall ever hearing Raouf say that he authorized the HOA to take care of those repairs. In fact, in talking with him personally, he said that wasn't actually not what he said. Now, he was talking with Dave, and I can't speak for Dave. I wasn't in that conversation, so I don't know. But again, Barbara brought up the point earlier, talking with our HOA lawyer, that a single board member cannot bind the board or the HOA to work. It has to be brought up with all the board, and we have to vote on it. and that's the way these things work. So I don't know where the miscommunication is. There's a lot of information floating around that's based on maybe misperceptions of things that might have been said. Now, again, I'm going to leave it at that. I don't think that we're in that position. I don't think that we have been put in that position based on what I know. I could be wrong. Somebody else could be right. Don't know.
It's my understanding that the meetings were recorded. Is there not a way to go back and review the recording to clarify what was said and what wasn't said? And also,
Yes, that can be done. In fact, I think they're posted on the Google Drive as far as the video on those meetings.
and my second question that's kind of related to what she brought up was, whose responsibility is it to, I don't know if there was any actual damage done to the home, but who is responsible for making that right? Is it the homeowner, or is it the contractor, or is it the HOA? That was a question that was asked at the last meeting that I don't know that's been answered yet.
All right. David Randall, 2712 Lighthouse. In order to try to get this conversation behind us, I should probably say a thing or two. Just to put this conversation to bed. There's a moot point about who's going to take care of it because it is being taken care of. And the homeowner agreed to the plan that's happening. The dirt or the select fill is being put in and to my satisfaction, and they're going to restore the grass. There's a plan to get it restored. It's not being paid for by the HOA. And and I don't think we should dredge up who said what, although I could. I could say what was said. It wasn't said in a meeting, but I think we should just put this to rest.
Thank you, Dave. Any other further comments? I think we're at the point we should be doing the, if there's no more comments from the homeowners, we will move on to the manager's report. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just one.
Sure.
Julie Houston, Lighthouse Drive. Raouf resigned, and I assume there's a plan to replace him as vice president. We need to also look at getting a new board member. I didn't see that on the agenda. I thought we might discuss that this week. We had a large slate of candidates that ran in the annual meeting. Is the plan to go through that slate and the ones that received, there were two are in this room, that received a considerable number of votes. Are we looking at them and to be considered to replace Raouf on the board, since we've already voted for them and they've been vetted and expressed an interest in running?
I think under new business, Julie, there is an item to discuss the replacement of Raouf. I'm sorry, it's under new business.
Sorry,
so-
I thought that was to replace him as VP, not as
Well,
on the board.
both of them are on there.
Okay, I
So
apologize.
There's two separate items, one to replace him as VP and the other to fill the board position. So that will come up under new business. Is there anyone else? In that case, let's move on. And Rick, if you'll give your report, please.
Homeowners with arrears of 90 days or more. The one homeowner is, our attorney is handling that, and it's $3,115.06. Marine arrears starting to look a little large, $7,795. Most of that started out with second Marina member, which has 3 slips. That is the Sea Scouts. I have contacted another part of the Sea Scouts, and they're trying to look into it and figure out what can be done. The other 3 boaters we're just waiting payment on those. Total arrears, $10,910.06. As far as what's going out on the property, we had the hurricane. Matt's going to get into the marina more. I'm going to go over the common property and neighborhood and boardwalks. Repairs of damaged walkways and piers. They were completed on Starboard and Sandy Cove. Walkways on Lighthouse Drive, there was damage where we were doing the bulkhead work. They were going to have to be removed anyways. Debris throughout the neighborhood should have been removed at this point. And also the limbs hanging in the trees, I think we've got all them out now. This cleanup effort was a joint task, utilized the yard crew, the tree service for a day, and Bell Harbor maintenance crew. There has been large increase in maintenance requests, mainly from wind-driven rain. Some of these, it did happen during the hurricane, but if it was caused from bad siding, rotted siding around windows, or caulk had broke down and needs to be replaced, and gutters full of debris, things like that, we do need to go through and take care of them problems. The tennis courts, there was windscreens were down, and there was some fencing repair and debris, of course, and that was taken care of. Swimming pools are up and running. There was we had to drain them, power wash them, and of course, fill back up, get the chemicals right. They're up and running. Chemicals are right. Windermere had some roof damage. That's repaired. Let's see. We've been busy juggling around the repairs and requests between the marina and the townhomes and common property. Of course, the marina, you would want to get the townhomes and stuff straightened out first, but with the marina, we wanted to get our income, which helps the homeowners. We wanted to accommodate that too, so we didn't lose a bunch of marina members. We moved some boats, had to move the boats from C Pier to B Pier, and then get B Pier up and running, electrical and water and the boards put back, and other than that, they have about, as far as the bulkhead status, they have about 145 feet of the 300 feet of bulkhead completed. That should start moving faster if the weather stays good. And that's my report.
Any questions?
Rick, what's the big pile of wood out there? What's the plan for that?
We're gonna either get a dumpster or two in there and load it up, or there is a crew that will pick it up and haul it off. We'll get the price and see what's the most reasonable pricing. And the reason it hasn't been removed yet is because we wanted to get at least 90% of what we need to get out of the marina and then get a dumpster in here or whatever, and then get it out of here, which we've done many times through many storms. But yeah, I'm hoping if they're available, we can get it. If it's more reasonable to get a dumpster, hopefully we can get one in this week, possibly. But there's been a lot of dumpsters are a little harder to get right now with the storm and everything.
On the marina, is it, will you be taking those questions, or is it Matt, as far as where we are on a contractor, or what we've looked at as far as insurance claims?
Okay.
Okay.
Matt's got that information.
Okay. I will ask one other one that, based on where we are with the marina, we had the EDC grant for $100,000 from the city. I think we've used about $8,000 or $9,000 of it. Is any of the stuff that's going on in the marina right now impacted by that grant, or is that grant going to be sort of on hold until we get back to a status quo as from where we are?
Well, right now we're at, as far as the repairs, where we're repairing originally, we were going to use some of that grant money to do some of the repairs. But now that we've got one bid in and stuff, it looks like we're going to be using insurance money, hopefully. So there's a lot of thought. It's just changed over the last day or so.
So I mean, we have, the insurance was $100,000 deductible. So looks like we've gone beyond that with the marina. And,
As far as the first bid that I've gotten in.
Just from the sake of what I know, Joy put out to all the owners that the first thing they should do is call their insurance agent and get somebody to look at the damage. I don't think we've done that yet. Shouldn't we proceed with getting
No.
that done to have them look at it?
Yes, if your deductible isn't going to cover it, I haven't called our insurance, because if the deductible wasn't going to be covered, then what that's going to do is they're going to come out and look at it, and just like a home or anything else, I didn't want to get dinged for calling them out here before I even seen how much it was going to even cost to repair. Yeah. That's, I mean, just like your homeowner's insurance or anything, if you call them up, then you're marked, even if you don't use them, as damage to the marina or your home or whatever else.
Okay, well, I'm just concerned, since we're so close on that, as far as if we've repaired damage that they would prefer to have seen.
Oh, we
otherwise,
haven't
so-
repaired much.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Questions?
The what? Oh. No. I don't know who did that fancy work.
Okay, we'll go on to committee reports, and the first one we've got is architectural.
You want the stand?
No, I'll just look at it here.
We have a request, 18116 Lakeside Lane. And this one is 3 parts. And the first is to install a handrail by the steps to the front door. You can see the picture there. Oh, fabulous. Good, on the left there. Super. And that material would be black metal, powder coated with vertical supports. And that will match the other metal work that's on the house. So the railings on the decking and such will be that same material. I'm presenting this in 3 parts, so I don't know if you want to vote. Let me just, anyway, the neighbors have been notified and they're fine with it, and the committee recommends approval as submitted on the railing. The second,
As long as you can combine them, let's try and.
okay,
get it
well,
in one done.
the other 2 are going to be modified.
Oh, okay.
So that's the only reason I'm saying. The first one with the hand railing, the committee recommends approval as submitted. The second one is the second floor patio door. And the homeowner would like to replace that with energy efficient. On the request, it says white sliding glass door. But according to the architectural guidelines, the sliding door needs to be bronze in color as the original. The homeowner is fine with that. And I have attached an email stating that she will modify it to a bronze color. So with the request now being modified to read, to replace the second floor patio door with energy efficient sliding door, bronze in color as original, to follow required architectural guidelines. And the neighbors have been notified, and the committee recommends approval as modified to bronze color. The third one is the whole house generator. And originally, it was to be on the ground level, as in the third picture. The homeowner has been in talks with different installers, and she has found that the elevation of that on a stand would be so high as to be taller than the neighbor's fence, and would definitely, and she's willing to put the screen up around it. One of the installers had mentioned and recommended that generator be placed on the north. Well, let me read it as she did. Install a whole house generator according to electrical and city codes to be placed on the northwest corner of the second story deck in the rear of the home. And the view you're seeing there is from the common area. And the proposed location is on the second deck on this corner. Do you have that other updated picture?
I don't have one.
The modification?
Is it the one with the table?
It's this one.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I have seen that.
Do you have this
I don't
one?
know why I haven't got it in here, but yeah. I have seen that, but I can't find it in my packet.
Yeah, that's the one.
I mean, you can't all see back there, but. Okay. She had taken 3 different pictures, and this is what it would look like from the side view. And
Which is the same view you have up here?
no, that's the one that was to be, you don't have the updated one, I guess.
Okay.
But it's on that second story where the flag is hanging, right behind that to the left.
Okay.
And so that view is into the common area right around the corner.
Is that main unit? Looks like an-
Yes. So the modification would be to put the generator on the second story deck on the northwest corner, still to be shielded from view. And the committee looked at that and would like to, let's see, yeah, she's talked to the neighbors, and the committee would like to recommend approval as modified to that location. And I wrote it out specifically, not that location. Installed on second story northwest corner of deck. So that's what is going on with that home.
Has anybody got any questions for Kay on her presentation?
Clear as
Nope.
mud.
Clear as mud. No. Do we have a motion to accept their recommendation? Okay, Matt's making a motion. Have we got a second? Fred seconded. We'll have a vote, please, on the motion to approve. Did you approve or?
One question.
Oh. Oh, sorry.
So my only question about this in particular is that we had a conversation with, or had applications and had some dealings with a homeowner who went through some hoops to try to meet our requirements a few months ago, if you remember that. And I remember one of the first things that he presented, he was upset because he looked around the area and said, well, we have this guideline that says your fences should be like this, but this one doesn't meet it, this one doesn't meet it, this one doesn't meet it. My question is, do we need to update our guidelines around that? I've been thinking about that ever since that homeowner and that situation, and he worked with us and we got to an agreeable solution to it. And I'm fine with that. I'm just, as we get into this, I think we need to look at what our guidelines are and make sure that our guidelines are encompassing enough to cover things like this. I mean, obviously they have wrought iron railing on their house already. They're trying to match that, and that's the right thing to do. But I don't know that our guidelines allow for that. Is that true or
Yeah.
not?
In the fencing part,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, read that. And
Okay.
it's not specific enough.
Okay.
They do need to be updated because, as you say, some people already have the metal railings,
Mhm.
and it would look silly to put wood
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
where, two townhomes right side by side, and one has wood railings and one has metal. So that's the way it was built.
Yeah.
And,
that's
and
part-
that's where you get is, what do you do then?
Yeah, I agree. If the house is built that way, you can't really hold the homeowner
No.
responsible for that. But we need to really revisit, look over those guidelines and try to get them as consistent as we can. Because I think right now there's just enough inconsistency in there that it makes it a bit difficult. I'm not retracting my voter.
Discretion of the board,
Yeah.
to make a decision on what.
Yeah, and then we get into a situation where, a homeowner has an idea and we may not see it the same way. And then if you've got sort of ambiguous guidelines, it can cause a problem. It's a comment here just because this has come up. I'm not changing my vote. I agree with supporting this. But I think we ought to consider that maybe in a committee or something.
Okay, going back to, I think we had a unanimous vote on approval of this. And as far as your comments about things needing to be evaluated, we actually have a person sitting here in the front row, Julie Houston, who had volunteered to look at a lot of our documents, but it's not an overnight deal. And because a great deal of them need to be reviewed for consistency in today's world. So thank you. You're welcome, Julie. I'll buy lunch next time. Okay, let's go on to the next one, Kay.
Okay. The next one is a request from 18207 Starboard Drive. And the owner would like to install a condenser unit, mini split AC, on the exterior garage wall near the electric meter. It will be attached to the wall using L-style brackets installed to the manufacturer's recommendations. And the unit will have louvered style screen covering it. The screen will be painted Bal Harbour gray. I gave you that other picture so you could see. The picture you're seeing now is not what you're going to see from the street. And I was concerned when I saw that because I said, oh my, that's right on the front. But when I went over to the house, it's not. It's on the carport wall. So if you were driving up the driveway, that would be the left wall of your carport. And the garage is over here. So can you flip that in your mind? And the one I showed you with the cars that are parked in the carport, that's what you'd see from the street, which is nothing. Because I was quite concerned and I called Rick because I thought that was what we would see from the street. It's not. The wall on your left is at the back. So as you pull the car up, that AC is on your right side. passenger side. No, he's gonna, this is the outside. It will go into his, his garage, yeah. Finished it off.
Do we have any questions for Kay on this? Do we have a motion on the?
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
Yep.
The committee, I'm sorry,
so-
I
I'm
didn't tell you
sorry,
what the
okay.
the committee went and looked at this, and he has spoken to the neighbors, and so we would recommend approval as submitted.
Matt? Okay, okay. And a second? Yep, Dwayne seconds. If there's no further discussion, could we have a vote, please, on approval? I think it's approved as presented, so.
Thank you.
This is the lady.
It's an observation. I know a lot of you have Generac. I don't. We got, I think, a solar generator now. And I know some of us were 4 or 5 days without power, but I'm speaking on behalf of my dog Gusto, and actually myself and my spouse, because the windows were open. Is there any guidelines on the HOA on gasoline generated generators? Because I think it's a safety more than noise, even though noise is safety. As the days went by, people bought at Lowe's and Home Depot these gas generators. And I had heard in the news that they have to be either 20 or 25 feet away from the home. Well, you can't do that in these townhomes. So I think that's my kind of observation, because it is a fire hazard. And quite a few of us, not me included, got those gasoline generators because I can't go another day with this heat. And we're only about a third through this hurricane season. So it's probably going to happen again. So just to check in the guidelines, if there is anything on gasoline generators for safety purposes, primarily. Because one townhouse goes down, the whole string of 5 or 6 go down.
I say, I think from Kay's answer, the answer to your question right now is no. So
I'm sorry I didn't bring it with me, but there's the code for distance and such. I think it was 25 feet. But, my neighbor across the canal has one right there on the cement under the deck. So I can smell the gas at my house.
Oh, yeah.
So I apologize if you're my neighbor, but.
No, I'm really concerned about a fire.
Yes.
These are wood homes, they're gonna go fast. Bayfront.
David Randall. I would like to suggest that we put an article in the next monthly newsletter about safety for generators. I would think it'd be a good idea to have a fire extinguisher or two by it. And I have heard from somebody at work that a neighbor of his poured gas in his in his generator while it was hot, and had a fire, and he got burned, and he and my coworker put him out. And anyway, so there's definitely some education that we could do.
thank you, Dave. And did you hear all that, Rick? Because we'll probably have to get with Joy. The suggestion is something in the next newsletter that goes out regarding generator safety. We can. Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, next we have Mark with the finance report.
All righty, can y'all hear me? Hello, can y'all hear me?
Oh, we can hear you.
You're
Am I,
good.
am I coming through well? I want to make sure there's not a lot of hissing or other noises because it's hard enough for me to, on this end, I got to tell you, whoever set up the audio did a great job because it's very clear and I can hear, as long as everybody's speaking in the microphones, it sounds absolutely perfect. So certainly appreciate that. Now sitting outside of the room, it's really well done. So congratulations for the audio experts because they're doing a great job. Anyway, so this again is our finance update for the month of June. The first slide. The one thing I want to point you to is again, and I say this every meeting, to the top, the table, the red and the green, you'll see it in the center, the variance for the month of June. Remember, we don't do July yet, even though I will speak a little bit to some of the indicative numbers I'm seeing in July. But for the month of June that we closed out, what you see up there is what we reported. And regular income and expenses, you'll see red and green. The net of those two are still, in the month of June, were favorable for Bal Harbour. And as you see underneath that, under capital expenditures, we still, even though we spent a little higher in that month, I believe we had some deck repair, is what Rick was telling me. For the most part, you'll see in the next slide year to date that we're still holding back quite a bit on our budgeted capital work. The next slide is something that Barbara and I have talked about, starting to capture more of the specific cost around our special assessment. So I created a table on, the deposits we will receive one back. The deposits we'll receive as of the month of July. The last time I checked, we had received 147,000 that we reported, but I think you heard earlier that up into August, we're looking at upwards in $200,000. So we'll track that. And of course, the Marina grant, last time I checked on the expenses on Marina grant cost, we were, for the month of July, in July, reporting about 21,000 extra dollars that we should be able to apply to our Marina grant request. So next slide, year to date. As I said earlier, you'll see in the center at the top of the table, you'll see red and green. Again, the thing that's driving the favorable income, whether year to date or monthly, is slip rentals is the big one. And then around expenses, the big one to keep focused on is contract labor. I know Rick and I have talked about this. The contract labor is, in fact, the augmentation of labor for Bal Harbour to take care of our day-to-day business. We have two employees that work for Rick, and then everything else goes to our third-party contractor to do the additional work that's required. So the contract labor side higher, but the net of those two income and expense values is both favorable. You'll also see in there, I wanted to point out, I added an extra row there for extraordinary expenses. We expect in July, in fact, we've already started seeing those reported, the cost of things like, we call them extraordinary expenses, but in this case, extraordinary will be obviously storm cleanup and things like that, where Bal Harbour has to go out and use our contract services, things like that, to pick up and do storm type repair that's not covered under our insurance budget. So anyway, so that we'll start capturing that. Year to date also, if you see underneath under capital expenditures, we're still underspending on capital, as I've reported in previous months, mostly because, again, we have a contract for the emergency repairs with Payne Brothers that will pay out here in the next, hopefully, a few months as they finish up, and you'll start to see those values under capital expenditures get netted out fairly closely. So on the next slide, I did want to keep pointing out from the end of the budget cycle in 2023 to our current date as of June 30, the increase in our reserve balances, which is operating reserves and capital reserves, is plus 100,000 favorable. So that's not quite as high as last month, but I will talk a little bit more about that. We did pay quite a bit in June as planned for insurance and our audit fees cost that also affected our operating reserve. So that was planned. So there's nothing here that's, in my view, that's out of the ordinary. So next slide. Another thing that I went ahead and added to this presentation is, if you ask the question, how much money does Bal Harbour have, then you'll see here, this is a total valuation, if you will, of all of our cash accounts. So this includes, I reported out in the previous slide, our reserves, which is in the center of that graph. That's the 468,000 right in the center. You'll also see that I've added the other funds. We've got restricted funds that make up a portion of our total cash balances, as well as our operating funds. The operating funds is a larger account that's on the left side of that bar graph. That is our checking account, as well as our what we call our contingency fund, operating contingency fund account. So you add all those together, you get the total valuation of Bal Harbour's cash accounts, which is on the far right-hand side. And you'll see the, what the balance of that was in October 2023. And then as it is in the current, at the current time of June 30 of $450,000. So that captures, total value of our cash accounts in Bal Harbour. Okay, next slide. Just as a couple of other updates, financially, storm cleanup in July will cause some unplanned expenses. And I know the last time I heard from Rick, I don't know if he has an update on it. I understood there was about $30,000 in July that we were having to pay for cleanup with our third-party contractor that will affect, obviously our budget. We'll be able to, hopefully be able to balance some other aspects of our budget, as we close out to the end of the year. But again, I mean, we all know what we dealt with. We had cleanup, and, we had to take care of those things in the community. Bids, and Rick already reported on this, that bids were solicited for damage to the marina. For Beryl, it sounds like he had one bid currently. So that's even an update from the last time I talked to him. And then the draft budget is, it's starting. This process is mostly worked initially with staff, and then they'll work with finance to paper that budget up so we can get it ready to prepare to the rest of the board, so we can again present that budget in the October meeting cycle. A 5-year look back, I'm working on that. That was a homeowner's request and one of our last meetings. So hopefully I'll have that finished up for the next meeting, and I'll just add it to this slide deck. And another question that was asked, the long range forecast update. I think the most ideal time to present that will be when we present the budget and everything as a whole, presentation, forecast plus budget in our October cycle. So that's it. And I'll turn it over to back to Barbara.
Thank you, Mark. I think you did it better than I handled it last month. We go on now to the yacht committee report, please.
Okay, let's see. Let's start. Apparently, there's a slide back there that looks similar to what I'm going to be reading, but the basics are we had 2 new leases and 4 moved out. The total income was 9,310 and some change, which is still well above, as Mark mentioned, the slipper rental is well above what was budgeted for last year. We're at 130% and still going fairly strong. The reasons for the move outs, which we like to give because it was asked from time to time, and one, the boat sank. I think that's understandable. There is storm damage to the other 2. And that's pretty much what's up there now. Okay, so things that aren't there, actually, I have a flash drive with some pictures of it. I have a flash drive with some pictures on it. I hope they're the right pictures. Anyway, and because I know most people don't even go out on the marine, in the marina when it's healthy, let alone when it's not. And to get an idea of the damage that was done, I went out there a little bit after the storm and actually went out a lot farther than I should have. And I know my wife won't hear this, so it's okay to say that. Anyway, and I took some pictures, but you couldn't even get. For those that don't know, it's ABC. And I mean, there weren't any boards to walk on. And then, well, it doesn't matter if you can't show them, but I'm gonna take the camera off really quick and okay, that's fine, whatever. I mean, they're not that great, but I thought it'd be nice for people to see. Not my best work. I'm usually a little bit more concerned about that. Anyway, and Rick was talking about the bids, and we were trying to stay pretty up to date on that. And let me see. Yeah, that's yeah. Sure. This was before the storm, and the reason I wanted to show it was after a big, when the water had come up quite a bit, and that area where the boat launch was collects a lot of debris and everything like that. And this is what it sometimes looks like. And we've got that cleaned up very well. This is a picture of the guys doing the repairs using the EDC money that we got to reinforce the figure piers. Okay. This is what happens when you don't tie your boat up during a hurricane. Okay, it floats down the canal, and you can see that it is sideways, but you can't see that there are finger piers underneath it. It's resting on 2 finger piers sideways. Okay, they did manage to get it off with the help of some Samaritans there, and but that's what happens when you don't tie your boat up. So I think we'll try when every storm to try to remind people to take care of their boats. But many times I've been called to go out and look at something where the boats weren't tied up right, and then it caused other problems, or it wasn't high enough on the lift. And but you can pass it on to whoever you might know. This is what happens when just regular precautions aren't taken. Okay, and that is CDOC, I think. Yes, as you can see, I couldn't go very far, and well, I went around with my jet ski later. Okay, so that was different. When I was on the water, I got some pictures, but again, and everybody who's seen me walk, know I have no business out there anyway. I don't have the balance that I should anyway, but at least we got some pictures, and I might have doubled up. That's a sunken boat. You might recognize it. It's not a submarine. It is a boat that sunk. There were 3 boats that sunk in the marina from the storm. Okay. And I think that's probably B pier, because there's still a lot of boards in place. And this, I'm pretty sure, is A. Yeah, yeah, it's A, because I recognize that boat that normally has a dove nest behind the throttle, but it's not there now. Anyway, but most of those planks came from CDOC, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, and a lot of them were, maybe the next one will show. Yeah, a lot of them that was after they'd already been stacked up a little bit by Rick and the crew. I mean, they got out there, and like Rick said, I mean, we do get an income from there, and so we want to, you know, fix things up for the people that are paying money and whatnot. So that's a little bit farther down the line, and it got trickier and trickier to get farther down there. And that was a boat that was kind of cocked up on the pier. But again, within a day later, they had got that managed. I hope, and that's about the point, I think, where they haven't been able to go any further. Rick said there was about 50 feet yet to restore. Is that about right, Rick? Yeah, okay. And 6 or more of the finger piers, which are the little ones that go out that divide the slips, they have to be repaired. B is almost totally fine, needs 1 post and 1 finger pier. C is about 90% demolished. And Rick's been chasing down bids, and whenever you're chasing down bids, you have to wait for somebody to answer. We have got a lot of people often want to know who we have bids from, and we have Bulkhead and Piers, Coastal Construction, and Bayside. Yeah, okay. So, but we don't have any firm written figures that I know of. We got one that's firm. Okay. And so the whole idea, as he mentioned, is that we want to find out what these bids are, to find out how close we are to our deductible, and whether the work should be done in-house, and whether we should contact the insurance company. And of course, that decision will not be made by me, and it'll be, it'll people that can actually make the decision, the board probably, I'm guessing. So, but let's see. And the deductible, I'll remind everybody, is $100,000. Okay. And when we first got insurance, it was $250,000, but we paid money to pay that down to $100,000. Okay. So any questions? Oh, do we have more pictures? Okay. Oh, this is from the jet ski, I think, or maybe not. But these are a couple of the other sunken boats. And since we are a bird sanctuary, I thought I'd throw that in anyway. Okay.
I just got another bid, and this is how it differ. It's like, I guess we have to. Oh, I was just saying, we got the one bid, which was really high, and then I got one contractor that I know can do the work and stuff, and it's a third of the price. So, I mean, I guess you can find the most expensive people and then try to put in your, insurance claim.
Okay.
But
Right.
That's where we're standing now. I'll get with you to that.
Okay,
on
thank
that
you. Thank you. All right.
Oh, wait, Steve, can you ask them a question?
Okay, the question was, can I just state your question, Steve? The question was, the 2 bids that we had, were they above the deductible? Is that correct? Okay, and the one was, and the other was not. Okay, So, and then we'll await the third one and then decide what we're gonna do on that. Okay, good. And we're gonna look further. Okay, so there we go. Any questions? Great.
The next is the tennis committee, and I don't know if we have anybody here who's involved with tennis. Okay. Yep. Up, back.
I usually talk loud enough, but the report, this is just
I
from
skipped
Rauf,
over.
tennis board, added one member and lost one. Total to date, 25 members. Income this fiscal year, $25,566. That's 74.6 of the budgeted. The pro program is doing good. All the courts are busy in the morning. However, we need to make some repairs on a couple of courts. Two new members acquired about the tennis ball machine. We used to have one. It broke down a couple years ago and we haven't replaced it. He also thinks we should consider that too.
Thank you. I made a mistake there and skipped over House and Grounds inadvertently. So Brenda, I'm sorry.
Had one request on 2809 Lighthouse Drive. They're adding a totally new bed that is in between two buildings that have brick walls. They've checked with the neighbors and the neighbors are fine with it. They're going to put some tropical plants and put some bricks around the bed. And the committee looked at that and recommends approval. Nope, and you can't even see it from the street, so. Any questions?
Do we have a motion from the board or questions from the board? Motion, go ahead.
I love landscaping, as most people know.
Ooh.
I'm very happy to see the people doing this kind of stuff. So I would make a motion to approve.
Yeah, well, okay, second. Okay, second from Fred. There's no further discussion on that. We will take a vote. One aye. Looks like unanimous on passing the landscaping.
I would like to add that I didn't hear a thank you for all of the residents who did participate in helping clean up and pull things toward the street. I was working in my yard and a lady pulled up and she said, "Do you need help?" And I said, "Sure." And I had pretty much finished between the tennis courts in my house, and the area behind the homes by the tennis courts were hit pretty hard. And so we went over there and we pulled everything to the tennis courts, which then later we found out they wouldn't pick it up there, but at least we got it together. And I met a very nice lady who's on Sandy Cove. Her name is Karen Rosen. I think she was here earlier. We talked about lots of things and found we had a lot in common. And we also are very energetic outdoor girls, so we had fun. But thank you to all of the residents. I know Lori got some people together to help pull some of the stuff together. So that's it.
Yeah, and I also wanted to add to that, speaking of the application here, the Delaney's, Tracy and Luke, they did a huge amount of cleanup for us around the lighthouse area behind all them homes. And I'm glad you brought that up because there was a lot of homeowners that got together and did do a lot of cleaning. And we appreciate that very much.
Thank you for all who did that. Fortunately for me, I wasn't here, so I didn't go through it. But it's also kind of a curse at the same time because I don't know what you went all through. But thank you all. And I came back to everything looking almost back to normal, not quite, but close. Okay, the next on the agenda is old business, and as far as I know, we don't have any unless the board members have anything to bring up. If there's nothing for under old business, under new business, the first thing that's on here is to answer the questions from the members at the special meeting of the board that took place on the 22nd. Joy gave me a list, which I think she has distributed to most of the board members as far as what those questions were. I can only answer two of them because Dave did, because he answered them earlier about his house and some of what was going on there. So is there anyone on the board who thinks they'd like to take a stab at some of these? The first one I know we don't have an answer to because it involved getting information from Rolf, which we don't have. It was the names of 30 marine contractors that Keith had found in the neighborhood. You see, he also asked if we could share the names of all those who were contacted. So I think the answer to both of those questions at this time is I don't have the answer. Steve asked why we would enter into a contract with Payne Brothers when they were in breach of the current contract for the time allotted to finish the job. I think that's still being looked at as far as what we're doing with Payne Brothers, and hopefully if we do move on with a consultant, we'll have some better answers on moving forward. Rick, I have a question. I guess it was on here from, it said Steve had asked, but it was, do we have any signed or submitted change orders on the contract for either a time extension or for the change in the materials that were used? Have we done that? Is there an intention to do it, or, I mean, the contract calls for us to have change orders if there is something, so, what's the definition?
So a change order is an agreed upon change to the terms of the contract based on the execution of the contract at the time. So if the contractor runs into some deviation that doesn't allow him, or the owner changes how they want it to be done, then it has to be agreed upon and a change order is written and agreed on. It changes the contract is what it is. It's a legal paperwork that changes the contract. I think we probably do need to go through what is on the latest version of that contract, because again, as I mentioned earlier tonight, I do know that we had to have a signed contract to go to the permitting authorities to get their permits, and the permitting authorities did not allow us to do the job the way we wanted to do it, which changed how we could approach that. So I don't believe that we ever did the change. I don't know, because I wasn't here when that happened. I wasn't on the board when that happened. I don't know of any change order to that contract that was done. And I do agree that we should probably backtrack and get the change order paperwork in order so that we do have everything up to snuff as far as what is being done based on the bid and based on our understanding of the job. So that's my point. I would agree with getting together, whether it's a small committee or how we choose to do that, but getting some change orders written that makes the contract current with how we envision this job to be done.
That's a very good idea, Dwayne, and I fully support doing that. Barbara, how many people do you want together to discuss how to do that? You know, it's up to you. Matt, Dwayne, and I could work on that, and then we could get back together as a group and discuss it before we make any changes. Is that okay? Is that,
I think that would be a good idea, because if the three of you you're familiar with the contract and with what's going on, bringing those change orders, the change order has to be approved by the board. So once they are determined what they are, and we can go back through that at our next meeting if you're ready for it then. But those are some issues that should be addressed. So Matt, are you up for being included in that group?
I will listen. I don't know. learned more about bulkheads in the last year. 3 years ago, I didn't even know what a bulkhead was, but I learned a lot about it, but I will listen and I can add, but I'm happy to work on it. And, yes, I'll sign it.
Okay, well, I'm going to leave it up to the three of you then to progress with the,
Contact other people who know stuff.
just, and just you can let me know if or Joy know if it's ready to come back to the board the next meeting. The sooner we get that taken care of, I think the better our members would feel about knowing that it's being handled. So, okay, let's see Annie, I think you had asked this question. It was, what was the purpose of the meeting? It was to ask questions and not get answers till later. I think a lot of these questions, unfortunately, they were not in a position to answer them. Hopefully that if we have answers when a question is asked, we'll give an answer at that time, or as soon after that as we possibly can. And there was a homeowner asked how long the bid was good for. What I can tell you, the current bid that we have that was accepted at that meeting was dated May 17th of 24, but it does not have an expiration date on it or how many days it's good for. So I don't know, Rick, has that bid actually been signed and accepted by Payne Brothers and us, or where does that stand?
No, they just, the bid was still agreed upon by them that they would honor the bid.
Okay. Yep.
If it's okay with you, I think Matt and Dwayne and I could work out how to finalize that contract and bring it back and let everybody look at it. Is that something you want to proceed with, or? Oh, sorry. So I was saying Matt and Dwayne and I could volunteer to try to get that contract ready and bring it up to the board to just review before anybody has to sign it. Is that okay? We could.
What I would say on that is that if we're going to have talk about bringing in a contractor to help us evaluate the contracts, we should probably wait until that's done. I'm open to your feedback on that.
I would suggest doing it in parallel, and if you're not ready to sign it until somebody's reviewed it outside the board, that's fine with me, but we can go ahead and get it ready, and if they want to make changes, we can make the changes later before we sign it.
I think if y'all want to work on that, we'll try and work it in parallel. I'm hoping that if we do get approval on a contractor, that they can help us work through that quickly so that we don't have a lot of holes in the contract. Yeah, sure.
Just trying to take notes while we go through them. And I think we skipped one, question 5 about the crushed gravel.
I'm sorry. Oh,
Question 5, I think we skipped over that one.
well, okay. I've had it lumped on my notes here as being that it's something that should require a change order if in fact that is what we're doing. The question was that the contract states it will use crushed gravel, and he asked why there was no gravel being used. Rick, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer. I think that's, you're saying you need to get somebody into another opinion on that. But that was another thing that was left in there all the way to the very end. We were thinking we were building in front of the bulkhead.
I didn't understand that. On the lakefront, I always thought we were replacing it board for board, that's what Rolf had told us about. That was what minimized our impact
Well,
with the.
yeah, I don't know. I spent a lot of time talking to the GLO and everybody else trying to get it built in front of it. You know, I don't know. That was my understanding.
Okay, miscommunication, I guess, then, because that's not what that's
And
not
then
what I had thought.
Just like
so.
from the GLO, we would have had to, just like we do the marina, we would have had to rent that property and pay a yearly price on building the bulkhead in front of it.
Did you have a comment, Becky?
This is Vicky Salmones. I live in Starboard Drive. As I looked at the bulkhead and the way that it was installed, it looks like there's a lot of gap. Are they going to fill that gap?
Yeah, it's gotta be back.
And it's backfilled with what material?
Bank sand and, select fill.
Yeah, I just wanted to know because I saw that there was a big gap there. So they need to come back, and that's what you're saying, that we're waiting for weather to be drier so they could get the dirt hauled and all that, right?
Hopefully they'll be delivering loads tomorrow.
Thank you.
And like I said, I skipped over it because I was thinking I had heard that, and that would be a change order that we need to address in the contract to make it, correct it to whatever the backfill is going to be as opposed to what's in the contract. Carrie had asked who was responsible for the Randall's house, and there was another question on here about Casey Ewing also asked if anything had been done about the Randall's house. However, I think since Dave answered that earlier, that is the answer to that question. I don't think we need to elaborate on that any further unless somebody has more comments. Another question that was Keith had asked if the board could create a forum for the homeowners to ask questions before the meetings. I don't think anything, as far as I know, has been done on that yet. It's a question that's been kicked around a lot over the last 6 months or a year about having communications with the homeowners better. The first attempt, of course, was a Google Drive. This is a second attempt to try and bring more clarity to what's going on, but a forum at this point is in the future possibly, but has not been addressed currently. There's a couple questions on here from Casey Ewing that asked, was the soil washout because of the storm? And he also asked at what point was that we were going to be putting grass back. So do you want to address those, Rick? His first question is he asked if the soil washed out because of the storm. That was from Casey.
It's like flipping a coin. If the grass was on there, would it have washed out? Who knows? Probably not. Well, it did wash out down further. It washed grass and dirt out. So yes, it's a possibility. And what was the point?
The other one was he asked at what point that was trying to be made. What was the point trying to be made about grass? I think that's what this is supposed to say. Asked what was the point that was trying to be made about grass?
The point was that grass is an important part of erosion protection.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. That was it. And
once the backfills in there and stuff, we will be putting grass back on there, but it's going to take a while before it starts taking root to where it's more protectable than it is when you first put it on. You get another storm, it could wash off there.
Do we have any plans to help protect this new area of bulkheads? And if there is another storm comes through, is there any?
So we're working on plans to protect it. And I talked to Casey Ewing about the new geothermal synthetic fabrics. And Casey has a subscription to a trade magazine that covers all of the membranes that are used in big construction projects. So I was about to email everybody today with the information in that manual. I don't know if we'll be able to find somebody here in the local area that can order it and install it. Whether Rick will be able to do that, we don't know yet. But there is a erosion control membrane that's suitable. There's also a open membrane that's intended to be a structural base for sod. And so it would be suitable when we have to resod. But until we resod, this other membrane would protect to some extent. So that's all something we're just now looking into, and I don't know if we're going to be able to get it this storm season or not. Certainly, if we can't do it this storm season, we'll be better prepared next year when we have to do this on the rest of the lakefront next year. So we're going to try to be ready for this year, but no guarantees. We're just now researching the subject.
Thank you, Fred. And if there's no further discussion on that, we'll move on to the next item. It says discuss filling the open seat of the Board of Directors. And Jan, I know you had come out with a message along quite a while ago about using the precedent we had in the past as far as going from people who had run for office, and that you did not do that? Okay. It is.
I've heard about a precedent that I don't know anything about. I don't know how to confirm that that was a precedent. I know that the board has to approve, and the board is to choose that director. Whether there was a precedent, I know I know that Mark was not elected or voted for in an open election. I know Scott Stillman wasn't. So the last two don't fit into any precedent like that. I don't know where that precedent came from, if it truly exists.
We've never had that many people.
Exactly, I know.
On the board. Nobody wants to be on.
Right. That was the biggest thing. We never had leftovers from an election, right? Okay, so now we do, and they certainly could be considered. But it's my viewpoint that we still have to open it up to anyone who somehow, between the last election and what's happened over the last couple of months, still thinks that they might want to be on the board. We have to open it up to see if that person truly exists. That's my opinion.
I will voice my opinion on this because I think sitting here as a volunteer tonight on the video is a candidate that has put her name in the hat at least 2 times before, plus running for office. She didn't have enough votes to get elected to the board. But as I understand, from what I know about Katie Gibson, she's has a 20-year plus commitment to the community. Her family lives here. She's got a great education as far as her undergrad in math and her MBA. That she brings a lot of technology and skills to the board that she could add to enhance our operations. And I think that those are things that since she has had that time with us and the interest, it's something that we should consider. And plus, she's a lot younger than the rest of us, and I think that would be a tremendous asset because we need younger blood. So for what it's worth.
So I certainly don't argue with you there, Barbara. Everything you said is perfectly true. However, I did have a woman ask me if she would be eligible to be considered, and that lasted about 2 days. And then she said, no, I guess I'm really not that interested. So I personally think we need to table this discussion, work out a way to see if there are other people that are interested before we move forward. It's my opinion. So did you want to? So I'm not making a motion. That's my opinion. If we need a motion to table it, then I can do that. So.
I think so. Katie, go ahead.
So this is Katie Gibson. Appreciate the comments that you said, Barb. I understand that my better or worse half, as some of y'all might see, might have dissuaded some of your thoughts about me, and I understand that. I have expressed an interest multiple times to being here because I do have a vested interest in this community and care about it. Whether y'all decide to go with me or someone else, it's entirely your decision. I get that, but just know that should you decide to consider me, I will give everything to this board.
Yes. Mm.
Steve Woods from Sandy Cove, and I ran for the board last time. And I've talked to Jeff. I think I got the next most votes. I was 2 for being on. Jeff was after that, and I think then Katie. And Jeff and I will both step aside. We will throw our support to Katie. We think she deserves to be here, and I think she would bring the most to the table. So.
Thank you. At this point, do we have any motions on the floor to either? Okay. If that's your desire, yeah.
So I'd like to table this discussion until the next meeting, or we have a follow-up discussion on how we're going to proceed forward. Is there a second?
I second it.
Is there any more discussion on this? We have a motion on the floor to table and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
I think you should make it known that if there are people who are interested, to let us know before the next meeting and why.
Okay, that will be something we'll have to ask Joy to send a note out to the community again, to see if there's any further interest. Matt, did you want something?
I don't know if this is point of order or anything like that, but I'm sure I'll be corrected if it was not. That the motion is to table the discussion. If we put it off another month, which will have to be because it'll have to be an open meeting again, then that's fine with me. But what will we be discussing then? I mean, is that we can't discuss now. In terms of that's what I don't get. You know, I mean, in other words, like I'm all in favor of getting things done if we can decide something. And I don't necessarily mean approving anybody for the position, but we can still yet discuss what we're going to do. I don't know what else is going to come up in the meantime.
So my perspective, and it's just one person, but I'm assuming, I mean, Katie, you've already said that you would be willing to do that. Steve, I know you said that, and you were, I think you said that the next, yeah, that you were the next in line as far as vote getters. I don't know if you were interested or not, but you just said tonight that you would step aside in deference to Katie. We just don't know if there's other people out there. So I think what we should do is take this space between this meeting and the next meeting, have Joy send out a note to the homeowners and say, is there anybody out there that's interested? Please contact the office. And we can have that discussion ahead of the next meeting and be ready to discuss what we want to do at that meeting. I mean, that's the way I see it.
We can certainly have Joy send out a canvas of the community again to see if there's any further interest. If we have any applicants, they'll have to come to the board meeting. The decision can't be made by the email strings that we've been having. So we'll have to bring it back to the board meeting, and a decision will have to be discussed and made at that time. But if the question is to either table this or to send out, perhaps you want to clarify that. Do you want to have Joy send a communication to the homeowners to solicit more interest? We could modify the motion to do that as opposed to just tabling the discussion. Would that suit you better from what you're looking for? We do.
I think someone can make a modification.
Okay, yeah. Would some like, Dwayne, you want to make that?
I would like to move that we modify Fred's motion to have Joy send out a request to the homeowners asking for anyone else that would be interested. And I would like to have Katie, I mean, I think we know that she wants to be considered, but if you would send a response to Joy also, that way everything is covered, it's all above board. And then we would consider it the next meeting. It's kind of really long-winded, I apologize.
Is the president said it's not going to be voted by homeowners and now it's going to be voted by board members?
I'm sorry, state that again.
Is the precedent that has been set, or this has never happened before, will the vote be then done by the homeowners or by the?
No, the precedent that it was referred to was that in the past, if there had been an election in recent times and there had been someone who did not get elected to the board, that generally they were selected as the next candidate most likely to fill that position, and they were appointed to the board. The appointment fills the position for the rest of the calendar year that we have, as far our fiscal year, excuse me, as far as if that goes, and then they have to rerun for that position for the May election, and then to fill the rest of the opening. That the board still, any appointment is made by the board. It's the only time the homeowners vote on the person to participate is at the annual meeting when there's a change in every year, 3 members change over. So does that clarify it?
It does. I just think it's a vote, and I don't know, is then we're going against that precedent, aren't we?
Well, some people don't remember that as a precedent, so I'm not going to go there as far as trying to challenge that. I mean, it's just, yeah, I know. I can't speak to that. Yes, sir.
Steve Woods again. Maybe it would help if we understood how Mark Wadowski, Scott Stillman, and I forget the one before that were put on the board. What was the process for those people?
I don't.
The one I remember is Lori, I think was, I thought she was in line with Todd, and the board picked Lori over Todd. That's the only one I remember. And then they come on board, then like Barbara said, then the residents can vote for that person for a longer term.
Yeah, so I've had a number of conversations. Let me preface this by saying that I have very limited time in the community. I'm one of the newer residents here. So I don't know this. I just know what I have been told by a number of people that have been here for a long time. It has, I think Lori was put on the board because she had run and was, I don't know if she was the next person or whatever. But Scott and I think Mark were appointed to board by the board to fill an interim position, because again, the positions are voted on at the May meeting, and that's when the homeowners vote, and we replace 3 people each cycle. My understanding is prior to even Lori that the precedent was that the board requested people that were interested in coming onto the board and then selected a person from that list. That's what I've been told.
You haven't answered my question. Scott Stillman and Mark Wadowski, how were they put on? How did their names come up?
Well, I know that Scott Stillman was asked by a neighbor if he was interested. His name was brought before the board. I don't recall if there was anybody else at that time. Matt does.
I think this is very clearly spelled out in the book. I mean, it's very, very straightforward in the book how to do it.
Okay, I thought so too. Okay, but since Steve is pressing the question, I know how Scott Stillman, I nominated him because I had talked to him because I knew the spot was opening, and so I nominated him to the board and the board voted him on. Okay. And I was there and I nominated him and I said, we have somebody who actually wants to be on the board. And at that time, that was a commodity that was a short list. Okay. And we voted him on and that's how Scott got on. Now, Mark, I know was part of, there were more people that were interested in, and I know I talked to some of them here and there and everything like that. And then we had a vote in an open meeting, if I'm not mistaken, in which we voted for the person who was going to fill it. That's how they got on. That's all I can tell you.
And Steve, if I could just, one of those two, I don't recall now, and I'm sorry for forgetting this, but either Scott and you or you and Mark were both up as candidates at one point. Is that correct?
No.
No, you were not.
I think when you asked, yes, I think Mark Wadowski, you and I both put our name in the hat.
Okay, so it was the three of you then.
Yeah.
Not Scott. No, I mean, Scott was before Mark. I mean, that was like a separate deal altogether. Yeah. Yeah, Mark was the replacement for Scott when Scott resigned. Yeah, Mark was the replacement for Scott. I'm sorry, it's not something I've looked into as far as being prepared tonight. But if Katie, you and Steve both had put your names in back at the time when Mark was appointed. So there has been interest shown for some time by these people. At this point, I'm sorry, I'm confused on where we are on our motion. I think Dwayne restated. Well, I can try and restate it, but I think we need a second on it, on the restated motion. Is anybody you want?
So I was going to make a second to Dwayne's.
Okay. Let me see if I can restate it correctly, and that we are the discussion as far as how to replace the board member being Rolf. We are going to request that Joyce send out a notice to the homeowners, finding out if there's anyone else who has interest, submit that before our next meeting. Whoever the candidates are, those will be brought to us at that time. And we will hopefully be able to vet it and vote at that time. One of the things we need to keep in mind is we don't need to drag this on too far, since we have a budget time going on and we need to be prepared for our October meeting with budgets too. So if that's it, we'll take a vote on that, please. On that motion. Okay, that vote carries unanimously. Thank you. The last thing on the agenda tonight is to fill the president's position on the vice president's position on that. Maybe I should be. Okay. The vote is to fill the vice president's position on the board. And the question on that is the people who are eligible have to have been on the board for 1 year. And I think this leaves it to Jan, Brenda, and Matt, as far as who's been on the board for a year. And do we have any motions to nominate one of them or all of them?
Can I ask a slightly different question?
Sure.
Can we ask who wants to be vice president?
Okay, if the three candidates are for that, we can certainly do that, and we can poll them right now. How about we start with? I would say absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay, Jan. Okay, Matt.
Absolutely would have been very close to my answer. Absolutely not, because I do not want that job. I would rather volunteer for many other things than that. A flogging, yes, through the fleet, and I would still rather not be vice president.
But you know, you could do it just till somebody qualifies being there for a year and you'd be out.
Yes, and you also could do that, I have to say it, but
I'm busy.
You see, Matt had dark hair, so. He won't have any hair. Okay, let me say this. Okay.
Do you mind if I use this on?
Yeah, okay, yes. Okay. Matt Logman. I'm on the board and I live on a starboard drive. Okay. I do not want to be vice president. I don't think I'm qualified and I have no desire. I'm not totally happy with how the board is treated most of the time. I'm pretty thick-skinned. I've been married for 34 years and I was a practicing dentist for 37. And you don't hear a lot of positive things when you're a dentist. So like I said, I'm pretty thick-skinned, but, and that, so I really don't want the job. And no, there isn't, however, I will, if I can paraphrase LBJ, if nominated, I won't run, and if elected, I will not serve. So.
No, I have not seen anything in our CNRs that covers if we have an open officer position, how we deal with it. Because of the qualifications, the three of you are the eligible people.
So I think we're gonna have to make another motion to table for tonight. And okay, so I don't see what else to do. It is getting pretty late. Let's table for tonight and try to work on a compromise somewhere. Okay. Anybody second?
Okay, we have a motion to table and it's been seconded. Do we have a vote on this, please? Approved, a unanimous vote to table this discussion. And with that, I think we have a motion to adjourn. Please, is there a motion to adjourn? Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. All right, we'll adjourn for the evening.